Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast. We are hard to believe in season 4, over 150 episodes, and we have an amazing guest for you today. He's a Fintech Hunting, one of the most listened to episodes. He's an industry expert, a CMB, a thought leader, a fellow podcaster. He's an evangelist for educating customers on their financial health. Please help me welcome back to the show, Brian Vieaux, President and COO at FinLocker.
Michael, thanks for having me back once again. I think I may have been a milestone episode like 100 or right around there. It's just amazing that this is the fourth season of your show. I love it. I don't miss an episode. There's so many great nuggets that I get out of each one of them, and I'm just appreciative to be in your network.
Oh, well, it is great to have you back. You always share so many great insights, and I love because you bring a very unique perspective. You were on the lending side for many years. You're now on the technology side, and I think that mix is really what helps, especially in a challenging market, move things forward. So before we dive into tech and all the cool things FinLocker's doing, give me a little bit of what's your outlook for 2023?
Wow. Yeah. It's evolving, right? No, I think for guys like you and I who've been through these cycles before, not just a cycle, but multiple cycles, the mindset has to be that this is a cycle. This is not the new normal. This is a cycle, and it may last multiple quarters. But as an originator, as a lender, as a loan officer, there's the shift. You have to shift your mindset a little bit when times are like this. And most people think it's all about, I got to get the next transaction. I got to get the next transaction. I got to get the next transaction because that pays the bills. I get that. Yeah. But this is the time where different activities, different productive tasks are going to help you when the cycle turns again. And so we've been really preaching about growing your database. Now is the time to build your database. And so I know I didn't answer the question on what do I think is going to happen in 2023. Best guess is Q1, which we're sitting in, is going to be cold. It's going to be tough. Probably the early part of Q2 is going to have a little bit of that same look and feel. But, we will get kind of that normal seasonal bump in purchase business as the markets that you and I live in kind of thaw out, in the late winter, early spring. And I actually believe that we're going to see a couple opportunities. They may not be long lived, but a couple opportunities where rates drop fairly significantly, where there's these little refi booms that kind of get created. And so I think when I talk about growing the database, that's what you're prepping for. You're prepping for those opportunities that the market gives you, and you've got to be able to activate your relationships when the time comes.
Great insights, and I love how you talk about it, and I'm hearing this a lot, and I agree completely with you. Almost have to have that kind of dual approach. One, you still got to pay the bills, you got to close the deals, and that's important, but you can't get so engrossed with just doing that you lose sight of on the horizon, whether it's in 2 quarters or whether it's in 4 quarters.
Yeah.
There's going to be opportunity, and as you talk about building the database, I think it's so critical that a component to add on to that building of the database is then fostering and growing those relationships.
That's right.
So let's talk about some of the tech then. What's some of the tech that you think are kind of the hot things that people are focusing on? Where are they investing in tech? What are they looking for in 2023?
Yeah, I think kind of just piggybacking off the what we just talked about in terms of grow the database, be prepared to activate that database, and being able to activate a database is dependent on having a sufficient enough relationship with that contact, that lead, that prospect, right? It's not enough just to dump them into a database, a CRM, an Excel sheet, however you manage it. It's not enough just to say I have this population of information. It's what are you doing to engage it and provide value to each of those consumers today. And value today has nothing to do with getting a mortgage. It's all the other opportunities you have to touch in that value, such that when the market gives you an opportunity to activate, some portion of that database, they'll trust you. They'll know who you are. They'll answer the call when you say, "Hey, great news! Rates have dropped 50 basis points. We can help you, save $150 a month," whatever that is. So where I'm seeing a lot of focus today is on improving the tech stack around up funnel pre-origination activities, right? So it's the CRMs, it's the Accelerates of the world, I think, that are getting a lot of positive traction because they're helping loan officers and lenders of all sizes build relationships through a kind of a systemic and data-driven, journey for each consumer. It's products and platforms similar to FinLocker that are offering lenders a set of tools to engage consumers in a different way up the funnel around financial literacy, financial fitness, financial preparedness. And so I think what's been cool to see from my perspective, and maybe it's a little, self-serving being in the seat that I sit in, is there is this mindset from originators to find different ways to bring different value much earlier in a consumer's financial life, such that a relationship's established, there's a trust, there's brand awareness, and when the market gives you the opportunity, you have the right to win in that case.
You made so many good points there, and I think the one thing that really jumped out at me that I think people struggle with is adding value, right? Not just getting that instant transaction, whether it's a loan officer. And I do a lot of coaching with loan officers, and I say, you've got to bring value, whether it's to the real estate agent, right, that you're working with. And they're like, what do you mean? I mean, do I take him to Starbucks? I'm like, no, I mean, yeah, you can take him, buy him a cup of coffee. That's not what I mean. There's informational value. There's resources and education that you can provide. And to your point, the FinLocker, getting up on that relationship early on and helping that person make good, strong financial decisions, they're going to come back to you. We talk about loyalty in the mortgage business is very low because historically we've been very transaction focused.
Right.
It's Smith file in, Smith file out, Jones file in, Jones file out. That I agree with you. Tools that are allowing people to grow and foster those relationships are going to be critical moving forward. Let's talk a little bit about, you attend a lot of conferences, but you're also a podcaster. You're doing videos. I love your videos, whether it's snowing in Michigan and you're out on your deck or you're cleaning off your leaves, in the fall. Talk to me about, because I think one trend that I've seen that it's kind of discouraging is COVID hit. Everyone realized I've got to do digital.
Yeah.
COVID, whether it's gone, not gone, I'm not going to argue people's definition, but people are out now and about, and there's industry events going on. And I think some people then just went from doing digital to almost mutually exclusive live events. Why is it important in your eyes to mesh the two?
Yeah. Well, again, this is probably self-serving more than anything, but I sit in still a emerging, startup fintech. And so that's, code for bootstrap, being very, conscientious of our resources and where we spend our money and our time. And so I physically can't be at all the events, just doesn't work. I mean, we're a small company and we have a relatively small biz dev, sales and marketing infrastructure. And so for me, doing things like coming on Fintech Hunting and doing my Fintech Fridays and doing stupid leaf blowing videos. And I found that, and now I was hesitant, but what I found is that those make the conferences that I attend more impactful, because now when I'm at a conference and I'm walking across the trade show floor or up and down the hallways, I'll get, and it's kind of funny because at the MBA, I think it was right around the leaf blowing video, which for whatever reason, that thing got a lot of views. People were like commenting on oh man, you inspired me to go rake my leaves or whatever. And so stupid video, had nothing to do with business. But then when I got to the conference, people felt like they knew me, right? And so it's that omni-channel approach to building brand awareness, building relationships. That video, did I think it was going to build relationships? No. Did it? I think it might have.
Yep. Well, I think what it does is it humanizes your brand.
Yeah.
And when you can combine that digital and you can combine the live events, you're so right about if you do the digital right and you put yourself out there and you humanize your brand and you talk about things that are important to you, whether it's college football or professional baseball or whatever it may be, when you do that, people feel like they know a little bit more about Brian. And we all know, who do people buy from? People they know, people that they trust. And what happens is that when you go then to these live events, people already feeling you've moved a few rungs up the ladder. They feel like they know you a little bit. There's not that awkward, how do I break ice? How do I instantly start talking about FinLocker or NexLevel Advisors or my podcast? They start talking to you about Leafs. You start joking. And that relationship then is already moved at a different level. So I love your insights there, because I couldn't agree more that when digital is done right, it enhances the opportunities when you do get together live.
And I got to give you credit, Michael, because your podcast was really kind of one of the jumping off points for me, not to get and go do my own, because it took me a while before I did that. But I think I literally came on your podcast, probably the first one I ever did in the industry. And it got a little bit of traction and it was cool. And so I then was intentional about finding other opportunities to use this medium to talk about FinLocker, right?
Yep.
Which then morphed into me doing my own Fintech Fridays podcast. And so I give you a lot of credit. I thank you for kind of inspiring myself, and I know others, to do this.
Well, thank you. And I think what I have found with this podcasting, video casting community is everyone's rooting for the other person. Everyone's rooting for your Fintech Fridays to be successful, because when we continue to get that message out there, we all win. I would be remiss. Tell us a little bit about, what does FinLocker have in store? What are you guys planning for 2023? How are you adding value to the whole chain?
So we've tried to get away from this kind of feature du jour, or what's the new hot thing we're working on. We've just been uber focused on doubling down on what we believe the tool set in our product is needed to help lenders kind of up the funnel. So what do I mean by that? We've really spent the last 3 to 4 months hyper focused on this concept of loan readiness, mortgage readiness, and really kind of building out a guided journey for that consumer who's not quite ready, right? So when I talk to loan officers, which I talk to a lot of loan officers every day, most of them know that they have this population of prospects, leads, relationships that are in a stage where they're just not ready to apply for various reasons. Could be credit, could be income, DTI, lack of assets, timing, all those things combined. And most of them don't have a real good mechanism other than themselves as the resource to provide that kind of coaching and education. And so what we've been focused on is helping that loan officer understand the digital tools available in their version of FinLocker, because it's a branded product to their company down to that individual loan officer. And so we basically say, look, we're going to help you, loan officer. We're not here to disrupt you. You are an important cog in this machine. We want to extend your reach and your ability to provide insight, expertise, and help to your early journey customers. And so we're doing that through our guided readiness experience that helps someone understand where they are today from a credit perspective and what are the things they should be working on to improve credit. Where are they from a financial perspective in terms of their debt to income ratio. Most consumers don't know what DTI means, right? So there's a process to not only educate, but then give them a set of digital tools that actually help them manage and improve over time DTI. And all of that is happening digitally, but the loan officer is front and center in every experience in the app, and they're a click away. So if I'm, Brian, consumer who's 8 months away from being mortgage ready, and I'm seeing that my credit's improving, my DTI's kind of going down, and I get to a place where maybe I'm closer than I think from my app, one button, and I've got a calendar meeting with my loan officer. And so we're bringing together kind of the high tech and leveraging that very hyper local professional loan officer experience. So for us, it's all about readiness, mortgage readiness. We're doubling down on that tool. We believe that this is the right market for that to be deployed at scale. And so that's where you're going to hear us talk just a lot about, up funnel mortgage readiness.
Well, I love it because you give concrete examples of how you're adding value to the loan officer without disrupting what it is they're doing.
That's right.
And all of those tools enhance the relationship with the potential borrower, build up trust with the borrower, but do it in a way where they can keep focusing on what they need to do today, but they haven't lost focus on what's going to be there for them tomorrow. Brian, I love it. We talked also about shows. If people want to see you, is there any upcoming shows you're heading to? And then what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Well, I think I've got a couple trips that are more local, not conferences, but Lenders One has their annual summit in March. I'll be there. So anybody that's listening that's heading there, I'd love to catch up. But I'm a screen away, I'm a text away, an email away, a LinkedIn message away, a call away. Always available. I'd love to hook up with anybody that wants to learn more about what we're doing. I know some of your audience would make great guests on my podcast, so I'd love to have folks come on. I know you and I are scheduled to do this reverse podcast here soon, so hit me up on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with anybody if they want to learn more about what we're doing here.
Brian, as always, thank you so much for your knowledge and expertise and being a guest on this episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast.
Thanks, Michael.